Well, joining us now, as I said, is Nik Nanos, founder and chief data scientist at Nanos Research. So, Nik, we just heard Jeremy Sharon there talk about how the polls have really tightened. The Liberals at one point were more than 20 points behind. Just what's your polling showing you about how close this race is?
Well, the latest Nanos tracking basically has a dead heat between the Conservatives and the Liberals, 1 percentage point. It's basically within the margin of error. And basically, we're talking about a horse race right now that, what was once a big advantage for the Conservatives has evaporated. And, right now, what we're seeing is basically a dead heat between the Liberals and the Conservatives, with the New Democrats trailing back at 15 percentage points.
So this is likely going to be a fairly short election campaign. Who does that favour?
I don't think anyone has an advantage in this election campaign because we have the uninvited guest. His name is President Donald Trump. I would expect that he'll be saying stuff, not to interfere in the campaign, but generally saying stuff about Canada and tariffs. And it will be a complete pressure cooker for the leaders of the federal parties to respond almost on a daily basis, I would expect, to what Donald Trump may say or what he might want to do. And you know what? The race is so tight that if anybody messes up, it could be like Survivor Island. So people will be looking at Mark Carney as the leader of the Liberals, Pierre Poilievre as the leader of the Conservatives primarily, because those two individuals are the most likely to win, the next federal election. So it's going to be tough for both Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney in this next election. Unprecedented in terms of the pressure that they'll be under, because a lot of Canadians know that this next election is going to be competitive and it's going to be very important. Probably the most important election since 1988, when Canadians voted on free trade, because Canadians know that whoever they select to be Prime Minister will not just lead the country. They'll have to deal with Donald Trump and the U.S. administration, and they'll also have to chart a positive path forward and vision for the Canadian economy and where jobs are going to come from in an environment where our relationship with our most important ally and trading partner is under severe stress.
Nik, let's just bring up your seat projection list from the end of February. Here are those numbers. Just explain these to us.
Well, what we're seeing at least is that, there's still a significant proportion of Canadians that, or ridings that is, that are too close to call, about 80 seats or thereabouts. And, that Conservative number at around 129 in the seat projections, get a load of this. At the beginning of January, it was like 220. The Conservatives at the beginning of 2025, before Justin Trudeau stepped up, were poised to have a sweeping victory, basically a majority territory. And what we've seen is they've gone down about 100 seats over the last number of weeks, with the Liberals picking up about 60 of those 100, and then another 40 basically going into the unsure column.
Nik, there's been a lot of talk about how this is sort of a single-issue election. Of course, the threat that's coming from south of the border and the tariffs that are being imposed by the Trump administration. Do you get any sense that there are other things that voters are watching out for, or is this truly the sole issue that they'll be voting on in this election?
Well, the thing is that, Trump and relations with the United States is an overarching issue that you can slot a lot of things under. You can slot into the, inflation, the rising cost of housing. You can slot jobs, the economy, all those things. So, the thing is the fixation on Trump as the top national issue of concern basically is a catch-all for almost anything that has to do with all the different elements on the economic front. And yeah. Why don't we just say one lightning rod with a whole bunch of issues kind of bunched under that lightning rod, with that lightning rod being called Donald Trump.
All right, Nik Nanos, founder and chief data scientist at Nanos Research. We appreciate the update. Thanks so much.